Hyperdrive Hockey is brought to you by the Game Over Network. Make sure to follow us on YouTube at Game Over Network and catch Hyperdrive Hockey in audio format on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any other good streaming platform. Hello, beautiful citizens of Planet Hockey. How are you doing today? My name is Max Vanut. Welcome to another episode of Hyperdrive Hockey. We are brought to you by the Game Over Network. Make sure to follow us on YouTube. Drop a like, a comment, anything you want. Share this episode to your friends, to your mom, your father-in-law, anybody who loves himself some good old hockey game. Alongside with me today, of course, Daphne Malbeuf. Daph, how are you doing?
Hi, Max. I'm pretty good. It's Friday. It's gray outside, but it's sunny and bright in my heart.
Well, that's beautiful. It's Friday. Got to get down on Friday. And I see your team cap today, and I'm happy to see it.
Yeah, and I just wanted to have a little style. I don't know, and I'm not going to say that this is because it's a bad hair day, but maybe it is. It's Friday for everyone.
Of course, behind the board, the Funk Master Flex, the man himself, Kevin Laramie, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, and before we go any further, I want to say a big shout out to congratulations to Max, who made a debut last night in a select club of a person who called a game in French for the NHL. In the NHL play-by-play club. Congratulations, Max. It was great to hear you.
Thank you, Kev. I appreciate it. You're very nice. Kev was working on that game as the statman, and that was amazing. Having somebody whisper in your ear all the things you need to say, and all you have to do is open your mouth. That was easy. I had literally nothing to do. I was just a puppet.
The thing is, you made it look easy, but it's not easy. Because you didn't just take what I given you. You were like able to formulate it and then make it away in a sentence like 2-3 minutes later that made sense, and that's pure talent. So it was really, really fun to hear you.
Well, Kev, I really appreciate the kind words, my man. I really appreciate
Kev the Whisperer.
Yeah, this is how we're gonna call him.
The play-by-play whisperer. I don't whisper to horse or anything like that. I'm just a play-by-play whisperer.
He's the man in the shot. I remember. I'm guessing you guys remember Inspector Gadget. Is it the same? I think it's the same name in English. There was a cartoon of Inspector Gadget when I was a kid, and you would never see the villain until every end of episode, and you don't see it. You just see his hand petting his cat. That's Kev yesterday. He's just there petting the cat. I don't know if I'm the cat in this situation, but
I guess you are.
A talented cat, though.
Kev is petting me. Oh, my God. We have a big, beautiful show for you today. We will, of course, talk about Jim Montgomery's firing. Jim Montgomery's firing happened, an hour or two after we recorded the last episode of Hyperdrive Hockey. We will talk about Alex Ovechkin, who has a broken fibula. The verdict is out on Alex Ovechkin, and I'm going to say it right away. We will talk about it later, but I do believe that, in a way, this is kind of good news. Honestly, it's kind of good news, and I will say why I think this a bit later on in the show. We will talk about that Whitecloud hit on Matthew Knies. We will talk about the PWHL again, bringing in some new rule, bringing in some fresh ideas to hockey, Ottawa Senators, a bit more too. I also have to give a shout out to Daph. I'm not telling you why right away. And later on, our second edition of Not Even Sorry, the segment that brings Canada together, or the complete opposite, shatters Canada's hope and dream. Avery Lewis McDougall of Game Over Edmonton is joining the show. Daph, Avery, and Kev will either uplift or throw under the bus. But first of all, Jim Montgomery's firing. As you guys know, I'm a betting man, and Jim Montgomery was one of the names that were in the favorites to lose his jobs, particularly after the very tough start of the season of the Bruins. They had a 6-game losing streak. I gotta be honest, though, Daph. The first one to lose his job, I feel like this is too severe, and I feel like he is paying for his boss's mistakes.
Oh, totally. And because when we were talking about this, I don't know, it was 2 weeks ago, we were like, I feel like he's kind of protected and he's not on the hottest seat.
That he had a leech.
Yeah, because of what he's been doing with this team since his arrival. And you've said it, like there's an identity change in the Boston Bruins team, and it was, you know, inevitable once Zdeno Chara and Patrice Bergeron were leaving, and you're like, okay, we need time to figure out what are we gonna be as a team without those guys. And then you're looking at how, you've said it, how they've managed, you know, the Jeremy Swayman contract. This is nothing to reassure your players when you're at camp and your number one goalie is not there because you haven't signed a freaking deal yet. So you're starting the season on your heels, and it's completely understandable because you haven't put, you know, the right things around your team for them to have success in the beginning of the season. And then you're like, we need to be patient because we've lost some great elements, and we need to find out other ways to win. And they haven't been patient, and they were like, okay, the guys are not playing the way we wanted to play. There's a lot of guys there underperforming, and this is what we need to do to start fresh all over again. And just, I don't know, it feels kind of to me like a coup of magic. I don't know,
a magic wand.
Magic.
They brought out their magic wand to try and change things quickly.
And you're like, is this really your move to just shake things off and put it on the right rail? I don't know, but you've said it. Maybe it's not on him, it's on the other guys.
Yeah.
His boss is up there.
So when you look at it, Jim Montgomery, it feels like he tried so hard and got so far, but in the end, it doesn't even matter because he was hired in 2022. So he had 2 full seasons, 2022, 2023, 2023, 2024. And of course, he is fired before even the 20th game of the season this year. So let's just look at those 2 full seasons of Jim Montgomery as a Boston Bruins head coach. 112 wins. This is 8 wins more than the Carolina Hurricanes, who are second in the NHL. 20 more points than the Hurricanes. That's first in the NHL. Regulation wins, 90. This is first in the NHL. The Boston Bruins have been, under Jim Montgomery, the best team in the NHL. What is crazy to me is that last year, and you said it, Daph, they lose Patrice Bergeron, the captain, the heart of the team. And they don't only lose Patrice Bergeron, they lose their 2 number 1 centermen. Losing your 2 number 1 centermen, this is a death sentence for most teams in the NHL. And most of us are like, yep, this is it for the not for the Colorado Avalanche, for the Boston Bruins in 2023, 2024. They're going to take a drop, and they don't. They fought till the very end with the Florida Panthers to win the division. They finished a point behind. They finished second in a very tough Atlantic division. And this year, this is what is crazy to me. If the Boston Bruins had taken, if they were the Nashville Predators right now, per se, who are dead last in the Central, I would have been like, severe, but okay. They are number 4 in the Atlantic Division with just 1 win under Joe Sacco. They're already back to the second wild card spot. How can you be so impatient with a coach who went above expectations? How many times have we said, nope, this is near the end for the Bruins? And no, they're not dropping. This is not the Colorado Avalanche. This is not the Edmonton Oilers. This isn't even the New York Rangers. What I'm trying to say is it's not a team that you look year in, year out, and you go, they're in their prime. They have to win a cup. They have one of the best core in the league of big 3. McAvoy, Pasta, and Swayman. I'm not including Martian because I'm talking young players. Yes, but around them, they're not the Dallas Stars, who have a beautiful present and a beautiful future. How can you blame that, man? Is beyond me.
Yeah, and look, they've overperformed when nobody thought they would. but you cannot keep all. You need some time to figure out who is this new era of the Boston Bruins. You need time. You need patience. And from what we've seen, they are not willing to get patient. And what Sweeney said, he was saying, like, from a personal standpoint, from player standpoint, they have to understand that they're not where they need to be. Okay. But you need patience there, my man. And he's like, we're either going to get back there or there are going to be continued changes across the board. So you have the man and you have his word and you're like, okay, we need to figure it out now, because he's not willing to wait and see and do maybe the little changes here and there that will get them back in the mix. And for me, just looking at the players' reaction, it says a lot.
Yeah.
It says a lot on where they stand on this point.
And if I may add, Dav, I think just hit the nail on the head. Jim Montgomery decided to put it on the veterans and almost alienate a few veterans this year. We remember that Brad Marchand kind of like argument on the bench. McAvoy was benched for a game, healthy scratch. And also there was, with Pasta, some roughing of the feathers by Jim Montgomery.
A whole third period on the bench.
Exactly. And he was benched by Jim Montgomery. So I think all those together. And now I look at Jim Montgomery's record with the Dallas Stars also. He was there for 2 years, a winning percentage of .570. In his career, he has a winning percentage of .659, made the playoffs 3 out of 5 seasons he coached in the NHL. One of them is right now, so 3 out of 4 if you want to be precise. But he's the type of coach where it doesn't necessarily last that long, and he's not what I would call a player's coach. Joe Sacco is literally a former player. He will be a player's coach, and it's a different take, and I think that's where they're changing it now. It's a mutiny of sort that happened in Boston to save the GM's job and to save the current iteration of the Boston Bruins so that you don't trade a Pasta or you don't trade your assets to start the next phase, I think.
Yeah, and on the long-term perspective, I feel like this is kind of, within a company that is not doing well, they keep firing the sales guy, the sales director, instead of establishing, a long-term strategy.
So
And
basically the Bruins just fired Michael Scott, is what you're saying? or Dwight, assistant to the regional manager?
Yeah, they need to close the Scranton branch.
Oh, that's interesting. You know what? I think, Kev, you said exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Jim Montgomery did not trade away Linus Ullmark before having Jeremy Swayman under contract, giving the whole damn stick to Swayman, not just the big part of it, the whole of it. He did not bring in Elias Lindholm on a big contract when Elias Lindholm, I think at this point in his career, is a decent second centerman. He was a very good number one centerman a few years ago. He did not do all of that. And I think that Don Sweeney and Cam Neely just tried to save their own buttocks.
And yeah, and even in that situation with Swayman, they haven't taken the blame at all. They've put all the pressure on Swayman's shoulder by saying, I have, it 64 million reasons to want to sign that contract.
Yeah.
So
no,
they were not willing to look themselves in the mirror, even at this point, even in this situation.
It's kind of like for the Bruins this year when you look at it, when you snooze one time too much, and so you're starting your day 15 minutes late, and sometimes it feels like the whole damn day you're trying to catch up, and you never do, and you go to sleep at night completely exhausted, going like, man, I never cut my tail today. I feel like this could be the 24-25 season of the Boston Bruins, but at the moment we are recording this episode, they are in a playoff spot. So, you know what? That's absolutely crazy. I think Jim Montgomery is going to stay on the sideline for a very short period of time. I think a team is going to come calling. I think a team could change its plans now with Montgomery becoming available. There are a lot of coaches that are in the hot seat around the NHL. We've talked about it before, and it will be very interesting to follow. There you have it for Jim Montgomery's firing. Now, let's go elsewhere across the league on our coast takes.
Guys, when we were doing this episode on Tuesday, we were wondering what was going to be, the injury state of Alex Ovechkin. The verdict was out, I feel like maybe an hour or two later than we've recorded our episode, but it is a broken fibula for Ovi, 6 to 8 weeks out. And the Planet Hockey is like, this was too good to be real. This was too good to be real. We were behind him, wanting him to break the Wayne Gretzky's record
except for Kevin
this year. Except for Kev, maybe for me. But Kev also said, like, I prefer like him to get and be healthy and
of course.
beat the record. That
of course, nobody is hoping for an injury here.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I would never pull a Tanya Harding. That's not what it is.
But Beth, if I may, there was a sigh of relief on my part. There was a sigh of relief because the way the contact happened, the way Ovi went down, we know the man. He's 53 years old. Apparently he's 39, but I think he's 53 years old. Still the biggest, most well-oiled machine in the league. He does not go down. So the way he went down, I thought, oh my God, I hope there isn't a meniscus tear, an ACL tear, an MCL tear. And so a broken fibula, in a way for me, was a sigh of relief. Because 4 to 6 weeks, Ovi could be on the 4-week side of thing, but Kev said it very well in the last episode. He is 39. Maybe it could take a little longer, but you know what? So I think worst case scenario, he is back early to mid-January. He still has a very decent shot at scoring 30, 35, 40 goals. The Washington Capitals will probably still be in playoffs contention. So to me, the worst case has not happened, and under those circumstances, there is a bit of a sigh of relief for me for Ovi.
Yeah, because sometimes it's better to have something broken than just like tearing your knee,
especially in the late 30s, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I feel it. I'm with you on this one, and maybe the record-setting goal, is can still happen.
With the start that he had, 15 goals, of course.
Absolutely.
It totally can. That's why I'm saying, like,
we're still here.
He's gonna need some time to get his timing back, probably when he gets back. But you know what? If there's a man who has proven to us that maybe he won't, that's the grade 8.
Absolutely. Max, we talked also on Tuesday, that Ryan Reeves' hit on Darnell Nurse has sparked a lot of discussion. Yeah. And we've had maybe another example with Whitecloud's knocking Matthew Knies out on the Leafs and Golden Knights game. It also prompted a lot of reactions because people were wondering, is this a clean hit or not? In your opinion, should this hit be considered clean or not?
I don't think it was the dirtiest of hit. I did think it was an illegal hit. It was crazy to me that the Vegas Golden Knight ended up on the power play after that hit, after everything happened. Two reasons for me. So, number one, the difference. The difference between the two hits is it came face to face. So sometimes, even we talked about Trouba's hit on Barron in the last episode. Sometimes a good clean hit in the chest when you're coming face to face can end up as a secondary point of contact to the head, especially when there is a difference of height and stuff like this. But there's also the skates that you have to look at. Mm-hmm. Some things that I feel with today's camera angles and super slow-mo, sometimes I feel like hockey fans are going to look at this most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, the skates will come off the ice, even if you don't jump. And it's not skates coming up, it's a jump. That rule is a notion of jump. I feel like everything about that hit is on the edge. The skates come off the ice. I'm not sure if he's purely jumping or if it's just the momentum, because it's the momentum that gets the skates going up. I feel like the angles that I saw, the head is a point of contact. I'm not sure if he goes through though with the shoulder in the chest first and then the. So to me, everything about that hit is on the edge. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't think I'm a snowflake. But when something is so on the edge, you have two school of thoughts. One, hey, it's a dangerous sport. It's you know what you're getting yourself into. But in the era that we live in, there is also the notion of players' protection. We talked about it last episode. I did feel like Darnell Nurse at least should have better protected himself on the Ryan Reeves hit. I don't know, and to me, this is the type of place where we're in a big gray area. We're in the upside down in Stranger Things. I don't know. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, but I was just like, so wrapping my head around what I saw. And for me, as you said, I don't think he's jumping, but clearly, like, the main point of contact had been the head. And where will I looked at, with the justification for this call or no call in this situation, people were like, oh, but you see Whitecloud is working through the body and the contact to the head comes afterwards. So we can argue on a lot of things there. I know we've talked about the biggest issue there is guys they need to have their heads up, because we feel like it's been kind of an issue in those situations. And thinking back about what you said, it made a lot of sense, but when you see the contact, you see that Matthew Knies he had his head up before, like he's just like kind of looking down for the puck like a second, but he's not looking down. He was entering the neutral zone looking up. So for me, this is not the issue there, but it's also the questions of like the intentions behind, and we're not in the player's head, but for me, this hit is different than the Ryan Reeves hit.
Yeah.
I don't feel like the intention was to hit his head, but I feel like the head contact was avoidable on this one.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? You're talking, and it's a very good point, and it gets me thinking. That's a hockey play that turned out wrong.
Yeah.
Whereas Ryan Reeves was not a hockey play. So to me, that's the silver lining here. I do think this is the type. I hate saying this because I don't have a very strong opinion on, because I'm not surprised there was nothing. I would not have been surprised if there had been more. So this is really. It sucks. It's a fast game. It's a tough game, and sometimes there are moments like this. I do think that at the end of the day, the fact that at its core, there is a hockey play in there.
Yeah.
Might have had some weight in the balance.
Absolutely. And I just want to leave you on because Tim Peel reacted on this on Twitter, and he was like, I cannot believe this is even a question. The biggest thing that bothers me about our great game now is when there is a big hit, the player that threw the hit has to engage in a fight or a scrum in shoes. And we cannot take the physicality out of our game. And I feel like it gives a lot of power to what you just said. This was a hockey play, and maybe we're just like too conscious now of all of the concussion repercussion, and maybe because we are aware of, those head injuries, we're not kind of, I don't know, we don't have the same amount of patience with those hits. We're like, oh no, this needs to go. But
I hate when a clean hit brings retribution. That's so that is probably the dumbest thing in hockey. This is how I feel about it.
There, he said it. I want to take you to the PWHL, Max.
Oh, please do.
Because, we're preseason, the camps are going on, and we've had some games this week. And you know how the PWHL really likes to think out of the box. And last year, there were some kind of rules that they applied that were really innovative and changed the way that maybe people were perceiving women's hockey. And so we added a new rule. The problem was we added the new rule like 2 days before the games were starting, and it got people a little confused. Not us, not the fans, the players, the coaches. And here is the new rule. So it's called the no escape rule. It's a new rule when, you know, on a team that commits an infraction, the team that commit the infraction needs to remain on the ice, the same players that were on
the rest
ice,
of the 4 players.
absolutely, until
three,
the
if it's
next face-off that continues
Yeah.
to play. And like, it's really new and we haven't seen a lot of it yet, but it brings a lot of chaos. And I'm just wondering, it's like, is this innovative or is this chaotic?
How do you feel about it?
I'm kind of in between, okay? Because this new rule is supposed to bring more, you know, offense to the game.
Yeah.
And I feel like I see where you try to go with this rule, but I don't feel it benefits anyone.
Oh, really?
I don't really feel it does. I feel it's kind of odd. Like, it's interesting. Maybe I need more time to look at it and see, like, maybe because it was 2 days prior to the games that they knew about this new rule. It was maybe why it was so chaotic, because they haven't had the chance to, you know, practice that prior to the games. But I mean, I kind of get why you want to be innovative and move the game forward. But for me, this is not maybe a rule that needed to be implanted to bring something new to the game. I don't know.
Here's the way I see it. I went to 2 PWHL games last year in Montreal. I honestly watched most of Montreal's game, now called the Victoire. And I did believe that offense was a struggle. I was curious about how, you know, it takes time to bring all the best players up to speed. It takes time to build the capable structure. Now that there is a proper way for women to win their life with their sport, it will uplift and keep uplifting as we go on. But I did feel in that first year that, let's say, the difference between Marie-Philippe Poulin, you know, Sarah Nurse and Sarah Nurse. I'm sorry, I was going to say Kia Nurse for a second. And Anne-Renée Desbiens, Ned, and all of that. Like, the difference between Marie-Philippe Poulin and a let's say a fourth liner or a third pair defense woman was huge, bigger, let's say, than in the NHL. And that is something also that the NHL, we hear a lot. Like, people are like, nowadays, like, the difference between the best goalie in the league and the 30th best goalie in the league isn't as big as it used to be. Same thing. Why? Because the fact that there are many big leagues in the world for players to go and play makes that they specialize themselves in their sport early. Now, it was unfortunately not the case for a lot of women. A woman like Marie-Philippe Poulin, like Nurse, like some of them, like, could focus on hockey year round. And it showed in that first year. And I think it showed in stats. And my experience was, and you know my take on this, I don't necessarily appreciate a more offensive game. Actually, I don't. When it's good goaltending, for instance. But I did feel like you could do a little bit to boost it, especially in the playoffs. And so for that game, I'm not against it. I am definitely not against it. I think there are great things that can be brought to other leagues. I think that the out of prison jailbreak, scoring a goal on the PK, I think that should become something. Scoring goal in the PK ends the PK. Just to make sure I'm clear here, I think that can be brought in everywhere in hockey. That
Yeah.
rule, I'm not sure we need it anywhere else, but I am curious to see if it works. Number one, and you know what? It's a young league. I am all for it for a young league to try things. If it doesn't work, if the players don't like it, you take it off next year. But for this year, I'm like, yeah, you know what? Let's do it. Let's try it.
Yeah, maybe we're too early on, but I feel like maybe because there was a lot of parity also in the standings last year. And maybe it creates another degree of difficulty because it could lead to a situation, and we've seen it, in which a team start with the penalty kill with 3 forwards and a defender. And maybe it would just like bring a whole new side of strategy. And I'm actually curious to see what coaches are going to do with it.
Yeah. You know what? 2 players were above a point per game last year. That's Poulin and Natalie Spooner. So I'm all for it. On a side note of 5 seconds, let me just, I did it last year, but I want to say it again. To the woman in net in the PWHL, and mainly Anne-Renée Desbiens and Abby Levi in New York. The girls are bringing fashion to goaltending. Their setups are amazing. Anne-Renée Desbiens with the crazy Victoire gear. Same thing for A.B. Levi in New York with the Sirens gear. Women's goaltenders have passion between the pipes, and I love to see it.
That's actually very funny. I've just... Anne-Renée Desbiens was on the Jock and Jill podcast, and she was like, absolutely no white pads for me. And she was asked, why is that? And she was like, because it gets dirty. Because at least if you're not blocking pucks, it's not going to get dirty. And I'm like, this is my girl right there. Like, I love to hear her having the same thoughts as me. It's just like, I'm going to get dirty. No.
You know what's hilarious? That. I just thought about this. Tristan Jarry is having a heck of a bad season, right? Do you remember Tristan Jarry prior to Kyle Dubas' arrival? He always had colored pad, mostly black pads. And when Kyle Dubas came into Pittsburgh, he said to his goalies, white pads, because he is of the school of thought that white pads creates an illusion, makes it tougher for forwards. And now Tristan Jarry is an even worse goaltender. My man Kyle Dubas, let Tristan Jarry be Tristan Jarry. My dude needs his black pads. He needs, you know what? Who are you to decide? We live in free countries in Canada and the US. Freedom for Tristan. All right, I'm sorry.
Freedom for get rid of the white pads. But I thought she would say that. You know, she would say the same thing that we've been hearing about the white pads.
But this school of thought has been going away.
For real?
Yeah, because you're so. For those who don't know, this became, if you remember, and it's funny because there was, I remember watching on the news on the CBC, well, Radio Canada, so the French version, many years ago. There was a point where retailers, sports gear retailers, were mad about this because in the early 2010s, so the crave started with Fleury. Remember, Fleury starts his career. He keeps the Cap Breton Screaming Eagles, now just the Eagles, yellow pads in Pittsburgh, despite the fact that at this moment, Pittsburgh switched from yellow to Vegas gold. He keeps the yellow pads for the start of his career. He gets injured. The year they win the cup, he gets injured, the first cup. He comes back months later, full on white gear. And everybody's like, why? Many people claim to have been the one to tell him to do that. But the official version that came out is that Michel Therrien says that he had gotten a letter from an optometrist, I think in Ottawa or Gatineau. He had gave it to Fleury, and so they ordered the white pads for him. Okay. And the reason was white pads with the white board, with the white ice, makes the goalie looks bigger in net, like it hides the spot. It's kind of the same principle with black tapes on stick for most forwards. Yeah. You know, it hides the puck. Yeah. And so all of the goalies grab this and go full all white for many years. And then it leaves. And you know what, for me, was the final proof that this is all psychology and it depends on the player? Marc-Andre Fleury won one Vezina in his career. What was he wearing? freaking all on. Flashiest pads in the world, all golden with the Golden Knights. This is when you want a Vizina. And now colored pads are back. I'm all for it. Fashion over over quality.
Absolutely. And so I was just, it's kind of a girly thing, but I was just like so glad that Anne-Renée Desbiens was fully honest about that and was just like, no, it's just because it gets dirty. And I feel you. That is why I love women's hockey.
I love
like
it
these are girly things that we don't talk about enough sometimes in the NHL.
Well, it's kind of like Sarah Nurse last year on the podcast. Do you remember? So they were talking to her about like, when are you guys dropping the full face mask and going half visors? And she was like, you know what? I don't necessarily want it. First of all, because, and this is true, like, as ironic as it may sound, the higher level you play, the safer it is, because, you know, boys drop the full on face mask earlier on in their development, and so they control their stick more. The worst caliber I play in, I always have a full face mask on anyways, because I'm not rich and I don't want to lose an eye and I don't want to lose a teeth, but especially an eye. But the lower the caliber, the more dangerous it is, because people don't have full control of their stick. And of course, we're talking about the best woman in the world, but they have never dropped the face mask. So if you just tell them, hey, you can drop it tomorrow, like maybe they won't think about it as much. So that's one. But also, she said it, and she said, you know what? I like my pretty face. I don't want to.
Absolutely.
I don't want to lose a teeth, dude. Like, it's glorified in men's hockey, but like, it's not glorified anywhere else in the world to lose teeth. Like,
no,
you don't want to lose a tooth. You don't want that. You don't want a crooked nose.
No, but it's double standards, because the men, it looks nice. You look like a warrior, and girls,
it doesn't even look nice. Like, we've just normalized it, but let's be real here. Let's be real for a second. Like,
absolutely. But
anyways.
I'm all about that. I'm like, absolutely.
Me too.
And people who were thinking that having, you know, visors would maybe get people to connect more with the girls on the ice. I'm just like, oh, we've proved you all wrong.
You know what was to me the final straw in even in the NHL? If players wanted to, they should just keep on the full face. Do you remember Connor Bedard's last World Junior? The only kid on the ice with the fishbowl because he is under 18. And what does he do? He puts them all in his back pocket, completely dominates the tournament, even, you know, goes on a record-setting tournament with the full-on fishbowl. And you know what? Do whatever the freaking
do what makes you
want.
comfortable. It should be like this. Like, do what
I'm not saying everybody should drop the visor, but anyways.
Yeah.
That was my final thought on it.
I feel you. We haven't been talking a lot about the Ottawa Senators. Looking at what's been going on over there, they dropped a fourth straight game last night. Should we be worried about the Ottawa Senators?
You know, I had them in the playoffs. You know, I was a big believer in Linus Ullmark, and now I officially look dumb.
What's been consistent is the inconsistency, though.
Yeah. What's killing me right now is that we were talking a few weeks back, and Kev had a very good point about the Ottawa Senators going on the road, being a young team and all that, is that they have not improved on the road, and now they're not good at home. They were very good at home. I am worried. I am worried about that team. I am worried about where they are going. Most of their young players are now entering the prime of their careers, so we can't use the argument of that they have all those young players coming in. Most of them are there, and it's still not working. I am officially worried, and I am officially starting to think that the drought is going to continue. We're going to wait and see, but yeah, this isn't looking good at all.
And we need to find a way to fight, you know, through the tough times, and that's been the issue in Ottawa. And we thought it would be different this time around. But they've just been, you know, if we look at how they've been losing, it's like, okay, you need to, when it gets hard, you need to not stumble and fall all over again. You need to battle and find a way to get going through those tough moments. And they were talking about character inside the locker room, and they're like, this is not the issue. So what is. I feel that they just need to keep, the foot on the gas, fully on, but fully on for 60 minutes. It's not what we've seen so far in the season.
Coach, they changed GM, and it's still not working. They bring in a Vizina winning goalie. He is not playing to a Vizina caliber. Yeah, it's officially time to start asking yourself some questions for me in Ottawa. Daph, I have an apology to make.
Go ahead.
To you.
We were talking about goalies, and I'm like,
I think it's 2 episodes ago. You asked me, is Dustin Wolfs' time as the #1 goalie officially here? And I say, not yet. Both goalies are playing well, and so it's still going to take time. Well, since you've asked me that question, the Calgary Flames have played 3 games. All of those 3 games were with Wolfie between the pipes, and it's been win, 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 3 goals against, a shutout. So, of course, 1,000 save percentage, 966, 931. I was a big believer of Dusty, but I did think that they were still going to try and split the job. Nope, I think we're here. I think it's Dustin Wolfs' time to shine. I think he's the #1 goalie in Calgary. I think that if they officially make him the #1 and he keeps getting that workload, he's going to be in contention for the Calder Trophy. And you called it first, and you were 100% right, my friend.
I'm so glad, Max, that we have this conversation right now. Sometimes you get stuff out there and you're like, oh, I don't know, maybe I was wrong on this one. But it's because I've seen what Dustin Wolf can do in the AHL. I've had just maybe a different look or a closer look to it. He's 23 years old, but I mean, he has a lot of experience. And I feel we should have confidence in him. And I'm kind of actually surprised that the buzz is beginning to build in Calgary about the Calder Trophy, because it's been 15 years since a goaltender took home the Calder Trophy. But
in Calgary?
Not in it was Steve Mason. Yeah,
you're right. Okay.
So I'm like, is this a year? Maybe. I think we can have him in the conversation.
Yeah, it's a tough year for the Calder, but if he has, especially now that the Flames are suddenly back, so it's going to be very interesting to see. I love that kid. He's so amazing.
I'm going to keep my Dustin Wolf watch. Going to take a closer look at this one, but thank you, Max, for making it right. Okay, guys, we have another person who we are inviting today, welcoming on our show, Avry Leris McDougall from the Game Over Edmonton. And we are getting going with our Not Even Sorry segment as last Friday. Are we bringing up, or are we cheering for something, or are we getting people under the bus? I'm kind of in a cheerful Friday mood.
And we are now joined by Avry Lewis McDougall of Game Over Edmonton for the 2nd edition of our Not Even Sorry segment, the place where chaos rules, where the myths might drop, everything you want, all shots are permitted in this segment. Avry, how are you doing, my man?
I'm doing wonderful, Max. How are you doing?
We're doing great. Thank you so much for joining the show. We really appreciate you taking the time. And this is the beauty of the Game Over Network. We're going coast to coast. We were in Vancouver a few weeks back. Now we're with Avry from Game Over Edmonton. If this is the first time you're catching this segment, Avry, Daph, and Kev today are all coming with opening statement, and then we are debating. They have the choice. They can throw under the bus or they can uplift, because let's face it, sometimes we do need a little bit of positive energy. And since Avry is our guest today, he has the honor of starting the show, going for the ceremonial puck drop. Avry, first of all, are you uplifting or are you throwing under the bus today?
I am very much throwing under the bus today. Very much so throwing under the bus.
Oh my God, I'm so ready for it. Bring it on. Who are you throwing under the bus and why? What is your opening statement?
I am throwing under the bus the NHL's replay system and how long it takes to get a call correct. This should be done in a minute or less. We should not have games delayed or stopped for 3, 4, 5, or 6 minutes to get a call right. If you can't get a call right after a minute, live with it, move on, resume play. Hockey games last about 2.5 hours, sometimes 3 hours. We do not need an extra stoppage so the official can look at a replay on a screen the size of a PSP. Embarrassing.
Oh, I did not have the PSP coming in the show today on my bingo card. I love it. Daph, I see you reacting. Do you have anything to say to that?
No, but I'm totally with you on this one, Avry. And you know, we saw it in baseball, even in tennis, you know, like we are trying to get the game going. And I feel like I don't know what's like I don't know why it is not an issue, or it is not something that we've implied earlier. I mean, we're in 2024. People are not scotched on their screen anymore to see the, like, we need to get it going. And talking about the PSP size of this thing, I thought about maybe an alternative for hockey fans who are there at the games. Maybe we could put something on the Jumbotron. I was wondering, like, could this be something that would add, you know, just a little fun to the people who are there? And because people who are attending the games are not even like knowing what's going on, and like for 3 minutes is just like try to entertain people, while we could be talking about hockey and get people talking about hockey in the audience.
Kev, are you with our guys here on this?
Yeah, I am. I also like Daph's idea, and I would push it even further. I would hire Wes McCauley to just be at the Toronto Center, and he has to describe all the replays. Like, no, I would like, that would be amazing and make it a little bit entertaining. But no, for real, sometimes it takes forever for a call, like for an offside on a goal. And then if you're behind the scenes, sometimes you have access to see the feed, and you see them fiddling to look and zooming in, zooming out. And then if it's not conclusive after a minute, it won't be after 5. Move on, like Avry said. I totally agree. Of course, if it's a game decision, like if it's the difference for the winner or not of the game in overtime, I can understand. But if it's 5 minutes in the first period, if it's not for a goal, if it's just for, maybe it should be accelerated. And that's what I really loved in the NFL recently, and even college, the accelerated replay review, where they're just telling the referee in their ears, okay, we verified it, this is the outcome. And you only have to mention it. You don't have to go through the whole pacing of the ref goes to the bench, takes the PSP, closes Sonic 2, closes all Metal Gear, and then starts playing to the game. You know, I think the expedited review should be looked into.
But Avry, I'm asking you, this is all with the purpose of making sure the right call is made. And we have seen in the past, before those reviews, some obvious, blatant missing calls. Aren't you scared that we would go back to this and have so much discussion about blown calls in the media if we do go back and shorten the review time?
At the same time, though, if you overanalyze it too much, you're waiting for a thing that you want to see. True, like there have been certain times where offsides calls have been gotten wrong because they're trying to look for a certain frame, which in real time is the right call. So there's a concern in that aspect as well, too. So I'm not a fan of trying to overanalyze frame by frame until you get the call right. To me, there is some level of human error that has to be in play because these are people who are making the decisions. I can live with some human error. When we're in a business where it comes to entertainment, we need to entertain the people, the consumers, the paying fans. So I don't want to make them sit through a replay of 5, 6, 7 minutes. Sometimes people get the call wrong. That's life. It's sports. It is what it is. As long as it's not too egregious in every single review, I can live with that.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Like, are people, like, our hockey fans are going to be angry if we shorten the time and eventually, like, it gets to maybe weird calls or calls that are changing, you know, the outs. Sorry, I'm.
Oh, a little sip for Daph here.
Yeah, I was good. Okay, but
Taking too much time reviewing.
yeah, But so are we changing or maybe like this would, force the teams to get, the best of video guys out there and just like get it going. So for you, it would be a minute. Like what is the time that would be acceptable? I thought like a minute is short, but at the same time, as you said, we gotta entertain people. We gotta get it going.
I completely agree with Avry for the minute. I asked the question to stir the pot since all of you agreed, but I got to be honest, I completely agree with Avery's statement. And not only that, I completely agree with the minute. If you are within a minute, not able to say without a doubt, like Kevin say, yep, the call was right, the call was wrong, whatever, you keep it. Because the spirit of the replay review in all of sports is not to make sure that maybe a winger on the other side was maybe a quarter of a hundredth of an inch up. No, it was to make sure that blatant call, like Matt Duchene a few years back, like Brett Hull's goal in the Stanley Cup Finals in 1999. Yep, I said it. Weren't good. These are the call that needs to be brought back, not those that take. If within a minute you are not able to say we made the wrong call, I completely agree with Avery. The call shouldn't be reversed at all because that's not the spirit of the sport. I'm glad to see we're all on the same page here on this. This is beautiful. Avery coming in hot to start this segment. We're now going to Daff. Are you uplifting or are you throwing under the bus?
Oh, I'm totally uplifting.
Beautiful.
I'm in Friday's spirit. And I was looking at the Winter Classic jerseys who dropped for the matchup between the Chicago Blackhawks and the St. Louis Blues at the Wrigley Field on New Year's Eve. And I've been looking at the comments while everyone hates the St. Louis Blues jersey. I feel like for me, it's a big yes. And I knew, Max, I would get to you with this one, but I'm like, I don't get it. Why people think it's absolutely outrageous. I'm like, I like the class. It's a winter classic, people. So I'm like, I'm up for the classic style. We've seen that, we know that we love the Blue Note logo design element at the center of a jersey. But for me, they're on the shoulder pads. And I feel like when I see this kind of design, I'm up for it because it makes me feel like we're 1916 all over again. It's very classical. And I'm like, this is winter classic. So for me, it's a big yes. And I know people are like, this is a lack of creativity. Well, I love it. I have to say I love it. I prefer this to the Blackhawks one.
Oh my God. I want to jump in from the road, but this isn't my role. So Kevin, please step in right here.
Well,
restrict me.
I was okay with everything you said except the last statement where you like it over the Blackhawks. Well, you're allowed to, and I'm not dismissing it. It's valid, for sure. But to me, the Blackhawks notes of the red from Stan Mikita days and the round logo in the front, more accent on the big stripes for the Blackhawks, I really like it. But I also like the St. Louis one, where it actually gives a nod to a former minor league team back in the day in St. Louis area. It does give, to me too, a look that maybe St. Louis should go to for the future. Their jersey right now is anonymous. This jersey they're wearing in regular season doesn't remind me of the Brett Hull days, doesn't remind me of the heyday. And heck, even if Gloria sang a few years ago, to me, it's not necessarily the most easy and pleasing type of jersey. I kind of like this better. And also, it doesn't look like a cookie cutter template type of jersey. This looks very different for the Blues and for the Blackhawks, and I like that. I wouldn't mind having something similar actually for their main and primary and secondary jersey for the Blues.
Avery, please tell me you're going to talk some sense in those people, please.
Sorry, gang. The Blues jerseys to me, boring. Oh. If the Blues want Winter Classic, I get it's a throwback look. The Blues, I get it, Winter Classic vibes, retro look. But if you want to go retro, to me, I want to see the St. Louis Blues wear the one jersey they couldn't wear. And that was the mid-90s the 3 trombone jersey that Mike Keenan said you cannot wear these jerseys. I want to see the Blues break those uniforms out for the Winter Classic. Get radical. Get different. Stop being safe. I understand that this jersey is, yes, an homage to a classic team back in the day what the Blues are wearing, but it's so safe and generic and uninspired. Come on.
But like we try to be creative, and when we're trying to be, I feel like we've seen last year the Kraken and the Golden Knights, and people were like it was horrible for people. People were like, this is horrible. So we're trying to be creative, and when we pull off a classic, people don't like it. I don't know. I'm like, for me, it's a big yes. Maybe
I just wrote St. Louis in Time New Romance here in my document. Looks beautiful.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like. All jokes aside, I completely agree with Avry. And here's the thing. I don't 100% disagree with Daph and Kev, but here's where to me where I don't like it is I agree that because not every team has the history of the Chicago Blackhawks, it's their 7th outside game. Their 7th jersey for an outside game, and they can still pull in the history and do something beautiful because they have a freaking long history. The St. Louis Blues, I've been there for a while, but they don't have that long of a history. Their 2 previous jerseys for Winter Classics were completely amazing. I love the idea to pay tribute to the St. Louis Flyers. Here is my problem. Take off the St. Louis on the chest, take off the blue note on the left shoulder, and you just have a generic jersey. When you look at it, is it a St. Louis Blues jersey? To me, no. It's a Buffalo Sabres jersey. It's Buffalo's shade of blue. It's Buffalo shade of yellow. Just adding that beautiful light blue of the Blues along with a deeper shade of blue, already you would have made it a St. Louis Blues jersey, and I would have been fine with it. But to me, a jersey in itself is part of the brand. If you take off all the logos, you need to know whose team you're rooting for, and this is my problem with the Blues jersey. Not necessarily the jersey in itself, but the execution. I look at it, and I'm telling you, if I'm watching this on New Year's Eve at home with my parent, with my dad, who will not know who's playing because he enjoys his hockey, but from afar, he will go, hey, who's playing the Blackhawks? The Sabres? I'm 100% convinced of this.
Okay, we need to circle back on this one on when we come back on the new year. But I feel like this, it's kind of with the Montreal Canadiens prisoners jersey. I feel like we're
the barber pole.
Yeah.
I love those ones.
I kind of
I really like those ones, but I feel like people are really liking it, or they really don't.
Yeah, which is not a bad thing in itself, right? Like the one thing you don't want to do is leave people indifferent. I am completely unsurprised to see that the only man sharply dressed today is the one with the best fashion opinions. Yes, I'm talking about Avry here. Kev, all right, are we concluding this on a uplifting way, or are we throwing under the bus?
I'm taking my 2 hands, lifting the rear axle, and throwing the entire Montreal Canadiens under the bus.
Oh my God.
I am stating right now that as of this moment, the Montreal Canadiens rebuild does not pass. It's not a passing grade. It is a failure at the moment we are speaking. There's a lack of education, a lack of growing happening in this team. Yes, you got a lot of good pieces. You got maybe 3 good defenders for the future, a few attack forwards for the future. Goalie, I'm not convinced yet that anyone really is the number 1 worthy. But when I look at the entirety of the organization, from top to bottom, head coach especially, surrounding the head coach, and how the growth curve has gone, to me, it's actually going downwards. Wow. Last night, I was working on a game, and I had to do a research. The amount of, right now, they're on a 2-game winning streak. It happened 15 times under St. Louis that they won 2 games in a row. 3 games, it happened only 3 times. And then 5 games once. There's a lack of winning mentality. Players are not angry that they're losing games. Oh, it's part of the process, We're trusting the process. Look at the Philadelphia 76ers. Are they trusting the process right now? No. They're this close to firing everybody. And I do believe when we look at Montreal Canadiens, there's a lack of team unity. There's a lack of team mentality. They're not necessarily there in a way to make each other better. You got one of the top 5 goal scorers and you're still one of the worst teams in your own division. To me, that's an indication that the team play is not more important than the individual play right now. And there's a lack of education from the coaching staff to the players, at least to make them better. You're supposed to coach up your team. And I don't feel like the Montreal Canadiens have been coached up since February 2022.
Dav, do you agree with this statement?
I would say, like, I totally agree with Kev. Like, we are not where we should be. I feel that we're standing still, even regressing at some point, at some times. And where we're looking at the stats, after 19 games, the Habs has worse statistics than the last 2 seasons at the same stage. And we're looking at the differential is worse. The global win, like we're 7-10-2. Last year we were 8-9-2, and 2022 and 2023 we were 9-9-1. So for me, 3 years later, you should be better, and you should not feel like you are standing still or even regressing. I'm not quite sure that I agree with the point that they're not a united team. I feel like this is what's been working for them, but we haven't found a winning formula, and we need to find ways to progress. And is it changing the way that I don't know what needs to change, but we need to find it, because you don't want to arrive at this point where you're like, we've asked people to be patient, but we haven't found the right way to do the rebuild, and we're going to fire everyone and try to start from scratch.
Avry, from further away, do you see the Montreal Canadiens in a different light?
As Edmontonian, I saw a rebuild happen for what felt like 55 years with the Oilers. So, but I will say that I don't think this is a failure just quite yet. I know Kev, you mentioned the players that they have who played well, like Cole Caulfield and Suzuki. They've been studs, but I think also too, I'll give a little bit of grace to Martin St. Louis, who's someone who's still trying to figure out how to coach in pro hockey, because he's someone who came to the Canadiens with zero experience coaching past midget AA. Like, he came in with no experience coaching pro hockey at any level, be it AHL, ECHL. So I'm willing to give him some grace as he's trying to still figure out how to coach at the pro level. Now, if next year this team is still not where they want to be and still spinning their tires in the mud and not near a wild card spot in the Eastern Conference, or not threatening for even close to a playoff spot in the division, then you can have the discussion, say, okay, maybe he's not the guy to get them to a postseason berth. Maybe you do have to go out and get somebody else. I know I've heard the rumors of Gerard Gallant possibly going to Montreal. Maybe that's the man you want to bring in to replace St. Louis. But I don't think it's a failure just yet right now. If next year we're sitting here again and they're starting slow again before American Thanksgiving, then yeah, I will say it's a failure.
Well, I just want to add to Avery's point. He mentioned American Thanksgiving. Let's not forget, in the NHL, if you are in a playoff position by American Thanksgiving, 80% of those teams make the playoff. That means if you're not, you got only 20% of chance to make them. So this year's already done for the Montreal Canadiens. And my answer to this is, remember when Michel Therrien was fired like the second time? And the second time he was replaced by Claude Julien because Claude Julien was just fired by the Bruins? Hello, Jim Montgomery. Ça va bien? Come back home, buddy.
He went there. He went there. Good on Martin St. Louis for signing a brand new contract. But let me ask you this, because you mostly agree with Kev. No later than this week, the Montreal Canadiens were ranked number one by the Toronto Sports Network, that's TSN for those who don't know, for the best core of U24 players. The Montreal Canadiens are seen as a bright young team that will be on the rise. Why are we so impatient with the process, as Kev said?
That's a good question. Because I mean, we have the elements there. We just need to find a formula to get it going. This is why I'm concerned. This is what I'm concerned about. And for me, maybe we're lacking of good veterans to, just like be around those young guns. Maybe that's what's missing.
Florida won the
know.
cup not because they had like a Belinskis who's no, they won the cup because they had veterans who were there to be good. At Barkov and company and Reinhardt. You need those veterans, and that's the big question mark for me for the Montreal Canadiens. Who are your skilled veterans that can show your skilled young players and prospect how to do that? It's one thing from the coach, but it has to come also from the players. Anyways, I can go on and on and on. That's my take.
But you need to find the right fit.
Yeah.
But you're
You need
talking
to
about
find work.
Barkov. He made the playoffs once in his first 6 years in the league. He had to pay his dues to become that veteran. Maybe this is still the part where Montreal are in.
But they're not even close on making the playoffs. That's the thing. They're not in the mix.
Yeah. But do you think, Avery, I'm curious since you're further away again, Montreal Canadiens set the bar higher for themselves this year. They said, we want to be in the mix.
Yes.
Do you feel like if they had not set that bar as high as they did, maybe the expectations would have been lower and we would not be having this discussion right now?
Probably, because when you go out there and when you do say, this is our standard, this is where we are, everybody's going to say, okay, well, why aren't you at that? So you do put pressure on yourself to then be a team that should be contending for a playoff spot, that should be able to get things going in November, December. So if you didn't say that, people aren't going to assume, okay, they're going to be a playoff team. If you say that, the pressure is absolutely on from the players to the coaching staff to the GM and front office in Montreal.
That is very, very interesting, especially that right now, Kev said it, the Montreal Canadiens are on at the moment of this recording, very rare, 2-game winning streak. Is that even a streak?
No.
Like,
to me, it's
not really.
three. It's
the same thing in music. Is a duo a band?
It's
a duo.
Yeah.
So is 2 games a streak?
There's an expression in English to say 3 is company, 2 is
Beautiful.
a couple. So there you go.
And these are kind of, the things that you're saying to yourself to convince you that you're going in the right direction, in the right way.
Is that what we call manifesting? Something like that?
Absolutely.
Martin says
Avery
this
Lewis.
Colin can't use right now. It's like, look, I'm on a winning streak. Don't fire me. We got 2 games in a row. We're good.
Maybe during the summer he can go to where Jonathan Taves went in India, looking for, maybe solutions or manifesting whatever, having his guru. Maybe it will help.
Yeah, we do wish Jonathan Taves health and safety. Avery Lewis McDougall is one of the hosts of Game Over Edmonton. Anywhere else we can catch you, Avery?
Yeah, find me on Twitter at AVRY. Find my work on the Hockey News and on averysports.com.
Lewis McDougall, thank you so much for joining in today.
Now, of course, it was a blast, gang.
So that will be all for us today on this latest episode of Hyperdrive Hockey. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure to drop a like on this episode on YouTube. Follow Game Over Network on YouTube. Catch us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and anywhere else you catch your podcast. Leave a review. Click on that subscription button. Click on the bell. Make sure you tell those big GAFA that you like the podcast and that you want to see it grow. My name is Max Vanut, along with Daphne Malbeuf and Kevin Laramé. Thank you so much for tuning in. And we will talk to you in the next episode of Hyperdrive Hockey. Thank you, everyone.